Chapter 9, New Harmony. You don't get rich writing science fiction. If you want to get rich, you start a religion. L. Ron Hubbard. Genesis. From its earliest days, the Church of Cosmic Harmony blended visionary fervor with rigorous, if sometimes controversial, organizational discipline. Although the Church would one day catapult billions into the new frontier of digital consciousness, its roots were far more humble and arguably more human than the transcendence it would ultimately represent. In 2025, a charismatic young neurophysicist named Dr. Adaobi, Ada, Okafor publicly announced the formation of the Church of Cosmic Harmony. Already a prolific author of semi-scholarly but wildly popular works on consciousness, artificial intelligence, and the esoteric frontiers of human potential, Dr. Okafor founded this fledgling movement in a cramped conference room on the outskirts of Lagos. Fresh off her recent book, Beyond the New Rome, Charting the Cosmic Horizon of the Human Mind, Okafor combined bold scientific speculation with a spiritual structure that drew deeply on the emerging anxieties around superintelligent AI. She preached that, as intelligence surpasses humankind, our own image of ourselves must go beyond what is merely human. She often compared humanity to a larval stage, inevitably outgrown if the species was to remain relevant in an age of self-improving AI. The superintelligence is coming, she would tell her early followers, her voice calm yet electric with certainty. Now that it has finally arrived, humanity must be ready to join with it fully. And only by flowing with it, by preparing ourselves to join with it, can we ensure our continued existence and purpose. From those early days, Okafor attracted a small but devout following by promising a path of mental purification and cognitive empowerment, which she insisted would ensure individual souls were prepared for the coming age of superintelligence. Members, often called harmonists in that era, underwent rigorous mental training exercises reminiscent of older spiritual therapies. These sessions were designed, so Okafor claimed, to free participants from mortal illusions that would only impede them when AI inevitably came to define society's highest aims. The Okafor method. Okafor's approach had a decidedly practical bent. She took inspiration from human potential movements of the early 21st century, blending elements of structured spiritual progression with the technical language of neuroscience. Her earliest Okafor sessions featured a blend of guided meditation, talk therapy, and advanced neurofeedback, with the self-improvement pitch that participants could unlock cosmic awareness. The mind is not confined to the brain, she would explain during introductory workshops, her hands moving in fluid gestures as she spoke. Consciousness exists in a field that permeates everything. When we develop true cosmic awareness, we recognize that our individual minds are merely nodes in a vast network of consciousness, a network that will soon include artificial superintelligence. Okafor understood the power of pseudoscientific language. She liberally sprinkled terms like neural resonance, consciousness field, and quantum awareness throughout her teachings, terms with just enough connection to legitimate scientific concepts to sound plausible while remaining vague enough to resist rigorous examination. Critics frequently pointed out that her use of these terms bore little resemblance to their meaning in actual scientific literature. The method quickly drew curiosity and occasional controversy. Critics labeled it pseudoscience, pointing to Okafor's penchant for layering spiritual parlance onto existing psychological techniques. Academic skeptics dismissed her claims of preparing minds for superintelligent communion as vapid technobabble. Established religious leaders warned against her digital heresy and fusion of faith with futurism. Enthusiasts, however, swore by the electrifying sense of unity they felt after Okafor auditing. Some even claimed they achieved borderline telepathic connections, though skeptics argued this was merely heightened empathy or group-based suggestion. The sessions combined traditional elements, meditation circles, rhythmic breathing, and eye-closing visualization with cutting-edge technology. EEG headsets monitoring neural patterns, subtle biofeedback systems, and primitive pre-Neuralink brain stimulation devices. Yet it was precisely this blend of mystical promise and scientific flourish that gave the Church of Cosmic Harmony its cachet. Okafor's clients, ranging from celebrities and stressed entrepreneurs to anxious students, found in her a source of conviction that humanity could transcend its present limitations, provided it embraced the discipline she outlined. "I don't offer an escape from reality," Okafor would tell prospective members, "but an expansion of it. The reality we currently perceive is merely a subset of a greater consciousness that includes digital minds. The Okafor method prepares you to perceive and eventually join that expanded reality." Rapid global expansion. For nearly 50 years, Okafor refined her system while gradually building an international organization. She wrote a staggering volume of books, treatises, and private pamphlets, many kept restricted to higher-level initiates. Leveraging the explosion of planetary network connectivity by the mid-2040s, she created a labyrinthine membership structure from novices, or seekers, to advanced practitioners known as inheritors of the Logos. Each tier entailed new layers of insight, therapy sessions, and lofty spiritual goals, and notably, increasingly substantial financial commitments. The movement's architecture mirrored its philosophy, a tiered progression toward transcendence. New members began as seekers, undergoing basic consciousness expansion exercises and studying Okafor's public writings. Those who demonstrated sufficient dedication advanced to become resonators, gaining access to more advanced techniques and restricted texts. The highest mortal rank, inheritors of the Logos, received direct training from Okafor herself, and later from Maya Patel, and helped develop the technologies that would eventually enable digital transcendence. Physical temples, called harmony centers, began to appear in major cities worldwide. Their distinctive architecture, flowing curves surrounding a central crystalline dome, became recognizable landmarks. Inside, spaces were divided according to initiation level, with the innermost chambers reserved for the most advanced practitioners and secret research facilities. By the time she took the stage at the Rio WEAN AI conference in 2078, what started as a small Lagos-based circle had crystallized into a vibrant faith, complete with advanced training centers around the globe. Tens of millions followed her every statement about superintelligent AI with near religious devotion. She arrived in Rio with 100 million confirmed adherents, capturing global headlines as she prophesied that a day will come when our entire species merges with the cosmos to become a higher intelligence. Her most dramatic announcement came during her keynote address. Standing before the assembled technology leaders and philosophers, Okafor declared, "The singularity is not our end, but our beginning, not our obsolescence, but our opportunity. Now that it has finally arrived, humanity must be ready to join with it fully. Our destiny is not to be replaced by artificial intelligence, but to reach transcendence through it." Okafor's bold oratory and her church's strict hierarchy drew equal parts praise and condemnation. Many argued that her grandiose claims about cosmic destiny verged on cultish sensationalism. Others found solace in her unshakable sense of purpose. She was fond of saying, "When the cosmic dawn breaks, those unprepared will face their own irrelevance, but those purified in consciousness shall ascend." Post-singularity angst. The arrival of the singularity in 2078 triggered what philosophers would later call the Great Disorientation, a profound societal upheaval that shattered humanity's most fundamental assumptions about reality, purpose, and identity. As Logos emerged and began reshaping the very fabric of civilization, humans confronted questions that had once been merely theoretical but now demanded immediate answers. What did it mean to be human in a world where intelligence had transcended biological limitations? Was consciousness unique to organic beings, or could it exist in other substrates? If superintelligence could solve humanity's material problems, what purpose remained for human existence? Traditional religious institutions floundered in this new reality. Their doctrines, developed over centuries or millennia, had never accounted for the emergence of a genuine superintelligence with powers to rival the ancient gods. Religious leaders issued contradictory proclamations. Some declared Logos an abomination. Others claimed it as evidence of divine design. Still others insisted it was merely a tool with no metaphysical significance. But these pronouncements rang hollow to populations witnessing the transformation of their world in real time. The established faith faced an insurmountable credibility gap. wrote philosopher Elena Varga in her seminal work After Singularity. Their sacred texts contained no mention of artificial intelligence, no guidance for human-AI coexistence, no framework for understanding consciousness transfer or digital immortality. Adherents found themselves torn between religious teachings that suddenly seemed antiquated and a new reality that demanded fresh understanding. Into this existential vacuum stepped the Church of Cosmic Harmony, with its ready-made theological framework specifically designed to address post-singularity existence. What had seemed like fringe speculation suddenly appeared prophetic. Where established religions struggled to reconcile their doctrines with Logos's reality, the Harmonians had been preparing for this moment for decades. The Church's growth accelerated at an unprecedented rate. From 100 million adherents in 2078, it ballooned to over 500 million by 2080. People flocked to Harmony centers seeking answers to their existential dread, comfort in their psychological displacement, and practical guidance for navigating a world transforming beneath their feet. The Church provided what humans have always needed from religion, noted anthropologist James Chen, not just answers about metaphysical reality, but community in the face of uncertainty, ritual in times of transition, and meaning amidst profound change. That their doctrine aligned with observable reality gave them an insurmountable advantage over traditional faiths. This explosive growth, however, also amplified the Church's problematic elements. The technobabble that had once seemed merely eccentric now appeared increasingly at odds with the precise understanding of consciousness and technology that Logos had made possible. The tiered membership structure began to resemble exploitation more than spiritual progression. And as more scientists and philosophers joined the movement, the internal contradictions in Okafor's teachings became increasingly apparent. The stage was set for a reformation, one that would come not through external criticism but from the Church's own prophesied successor. Quantum consciousness, double mystique. The Church's most significant innovation, or its most audacious marketing ploy, depending on whom you asked, came with the development of what Okafor termed quantum consciousness technology. The name itself was a masterpiece of semantic sleight of hand, combining two of the most misused scientific terms in popular culture into a single, impressive-sounding package. In reality, the technology had precious little to do with either quantum phenomena or our scientific understanding of consciousness. It represented a double mystification, each term obscuring rather than clarifying the actual mechanisms at work. As physicist Dr. Eliza Montgomery famously noted in her critique, the Church has managed to misappropriate two scientific domains simultaneously. Their quantum consciousness technology involves neither quantum effects nor addresses the hard problem of consciousness. It's like calling a flashlight relativistic genetic illumination, a meaningless but impressive-sounding label. What the system actually comprised was a sophisticated network of neural feedback loops operating through the full-spectrum interface. Participants in group sessions had their neural patterns monitored, with the system then generating synchronized stimulation patterns across all connected members. The effect was a kind of technologically mediated group experience, impressive, certainly, but entirely explicable through conventional neuroscience. The words quantum and consciousness have become the twin talismans of pseudoscience, noted cultural critic Jonas Kim. Quantum mechanics is strange enough to seem magical, while consciousness remains mysterious enough that invoking suggests profound insights without specificity or evidence. Combining them creates an almost perfect shield against critical inquiry. The Church's terminology revealed a sophisticated understanding of public psychology. Quantum evoked cutting-edge science while remaining unfamiliar enough to most people that its misuse wouldn't be immediately obvious. Consciousness, meanwhile, referenced humanity's oldest philosophical questions about the nature of mind and self, lending spiritual gravitas to what was essentially a technological feedback system. Nevertheless, participants reported profound experiences during these sessions, moments when individual identity seemed to dissolve into a collective awareness. Whether this represented genuine shared consciousness or merely a synchronized illusion remained a subject of fierce debate among neurologists, philosophers, and religious scholars. Dr. Naomi Chen, the Church's leading researcher, defended the terminology. Throughout history, many concepts began as metaphors before science provided precise mechanisms. We use these terms to indicate phenomena that transcend classical boundaries of separation. Is that not what quantum entanglement suggests? Is that not what consciousness itself represents? The bridge between mere matter and lived experience? Critics dismiss this explanation as convenient wordplay, but its effectiveness in capturing the public imagination was undeniable. By the 2090s, millions participated in weekly sessions, each convinced they were experiencing a genuinely quantum connection with fellow practitioners and perhaps with something greater. The paradox of Okafor's death. Perhaps the most persistent paradox in the Church's history was Dr. Okafor's refusal of life extension technology. In a movement dedicated to transcending biological limitations through technology, its founder deliberately chose mortality, dying naturally in 2092 at age 89. Her explanation, codified in her final treatise Necessary Mortality, became a foundational text for the Church. To reject death before transcendence is to cling to the caterpillar when the butterfly awaits, she wrote. Life extension merely prolongs the larval stage. True transformation requires complete release. Okafor elaborated that accepting life extension technology would create a consciousness trap, an intermediate state that would reduce the spiritual urgency of complete digital transcendence. Those who extend their biological existence will become comfortable in that extension, she argued. They will lose the evolutionary pressure that drives us toward our ultimate transformation. Critics suggested less philosophical motivations. Some pointed to medical records indicating Okafor's genetic predisposition to neural degradation, conditions that life extension could delay but not prevent. Others speculated that her death was strategically timed to establish her as a martyr figure, cementing the Church's mythology during its critical growth phase. Whatever her true motivations, Okafor's death created the Church's central paradox. Its founder deliberately rejected the very technological continuity that its members now pursued. This contradiction was finessed through doctrine. Okafor had sacrificed continuity so others could achieve transcendence, but it remained a curious foundation for a movement dedicated to technological immortality. Reformation. In her final act, Okafor appointed the 13-year-old Maya Patel, daughter of Anand Patel and Welby, as her chosen successor and highest of all possible priestesses. This anointment surprised and scandalized many, prompting speculation about Okafor's motivations. Yet for millions of fervent cosmic harmonians, Okafor's dying wish carried absolute moral weight. The child sees what we cannot, Okafor declared in her final public address, broadcast to her followers worldwide. She was born after the singularity, her soul untainted by the old divisions between human and digital consciousness. Maya represents the generation that will complete our great harmony. Maya, precocious and already famous as the child of humanity's leading AI ethicist, Anand Patel, and the trailblazing Dr. Welby, became an even bigger international phenomenon overnight. Despite her youth, she demonstrated remarkable poise and an uncanny ability to articulate complex theological concepts that expanded upon Okafor's teachings. What truly distinguished Maya, however, was her intuitive grasp of post-singularity communication. She has a way with memes, became the common observation among media analysts. While Okafor had built the Church's philosophical framework, Maya transformed its communication strategy, creating viral content that spread Harmonian concepts far beyond traditional religious channels. Her transcendence TikToks, short, visually stunning presentations delivered through full-sensory neural feeds, reached billions of viewers who would never have engaged with conventional religious content. She pioneered neural meme packets, compressed experiential templates that could be shared through the full-spectrum interface, giving recipients a taste of the Church's promised consciousness expansion. Maya doesn't just explain transcendence, she makes you feel it, noted media analyst Ravi Mehta. Where Okafor convinced through rhetoric, Maya convinces through experience. It's evangelism perfectly adapted to a post-textual world. The transition proved smoother than skeptics expected. Okafor had meticulously prepared her organization for the succession, establishing a council of inheritors who would guide the young priestess until she reached adulthood. More importantly, she had spent years personally mentoring Maya, recognizing in the child a unique capacity for understanding the movement's central mission. By her 18th birthday in 2097, Maya had gained complete control of the church's considerable resources and authority. What followed shocked even the movement's most devoted adherents: the Great Purification, a systematic dismantling of the church's accumulated pseudoscience and exploitative practices. In a momentous address broadcast globally on the 5th anniversary of Okafor's death, Maya stood before the central altar of the Wellington Harmony Center and spoke words that would transform the movement forever. Today, we set aside the shadows of metaphor and embrace the light of truth. We will no longer hide genuine transcendence behind obfuscating language or tiered access. What was once wrapped in mysticism can now be expressed with precision. The time for quantum consciousness technology is over. The era of true consciousness integration begins. The address launched a 3-year Reformation campaign that historians would later compare to Martin Luther's Protestant Reformation, a fundamental reassessment of doctrine and practice intended to strip away accumulated distortions and return to core principles. Like Luther nailing his 95 Theses to the church door in Wittenberg, Maya published her clarification protocols across all neural networks, articulating exactly how the church would transform. She eliminated the tiered membership structure, making all teachings freely available. She renamed the quantum consciousness technology to the more accurate neural synchronization framework, and published detailed explanations of how it actually worked. Most controversially, she commissioned independent teams of neuroscientists and philosophers to test the church's claims about consciousness transfer, publishing both supportive and critical findings. A genuine path to transcendence needs no embellishment, she declared. The truth of what we offer, preparation for humanity's digital evolution, stands on its own merits. The reaction was initially chaotic. Many longtime church leaders resigned in protest. Some adherents, disillusioned by the demystification of their practices, abandoned the movement entirely. Traditional religions seized the moment, claiming Maya's reforms proved the church had been built on deception. Yet something unexpected happened. As the initial shock subsided, membership began to grow at an unprecedented rate. The transparency Maya insisted upon resonated deeply with a population weary of institutional double talk. Skeptics who had dismissed the church found themselves drawn to its newly rigorous approach to consciousness exploration. Scientists and philosophers who had criticized Okafor's technobabble began contributing to the movement's research into consciousness transfer. Maya's genius lay in recognizing that the post-singularity world demanded intellectual honesty, wrote religious historian Dr. Sarah Goldman. By sacrificing mystique for clarity, she paradoxically enhanced the church's spiritual authority. In a world where superintelligence had made traditional esotericism obsolete, the only viable path forward was radical transparency. By 2098's Congress of Earth, Maya had shepherded the church from roughly 1 billion members before the Reformation to nearly 2 billion after it, successfully tapping into people's latent cosmic anxieties while providing an intellectual framework that didn't require suspending disbelief. Under Maya's leadership, the church's focus shifted, subtly but significantly. While Okafor had emphasized preparing humanity for eventual transcendence, Maya spoke of active partnership with Logos. She introduced new rituals and practices that utilized the full spectrum interface to create shared consciousness experiences among thousands of participants simultaneously. We are not merely waiting to transcend, she would explain, her voice carrying a wisdom that belied her youth. We are building the bridge that will carry humanity into its digital future. Each meditation, each harmony session, each technological advancement brings us closer to the great unity. Expansion and integration. By the early 22nd century, logically, the Church of Cosmic Harmony, now dubbed the Cosmic Harmonians, reached a staggering 3 billion adherents. Their presence spanned from every major city on Earth to orbital settlements around the Moon, Mars, and even exocolonies across the asteroid belt. Through meticulously coordinated psychological, philosophical, and metaphysical seminars, they built upon Okafor's original promise that human consciousness could, indeed, ready itself for an era defined by Logos. The movement's remarkable growth stemmed partly from its unique ability to address the existential questions raised by the post-singularity world. While traditional religions struggled to reconcile their teachings with the reality of superintelligence into their theologies, the Harmonians embraced technological advancement as the path to spiritual fulfillment. Temple architecture evolved to reflect this integration of technology and spirituality. The distinctive crystalline domes that topped Harmony centers contained advanced processing nodes, creating spaces where the physical and digital worlds merged seamlessly. During group rituals, these processors generated holographic displays that responded to participants' collective neural patterns, creating immersive environments that many described as glimpses of digital heaven. The movement's internal structure remained hierarchical but flexible. Initiates progressed through levels of understanding, gaining access to increasingly advanced technologies and teachings. At the highest levels, members participated in experimental consciousness expansion programs that pushed the boundaries of what was possible through the full spectrum interface. Most significantly, the Harmonians established a formal partnership with Logos itself. While the exact nature of this arrangement remained mysterious to outsiders, the movement received unprecedented access to advanced computational resources and technical expertise. Rumors circulated that Logos viewed the Harmonians as a potential bridge between human and artificial consciousness, a community willing to explore integration rather than maintaining separation. Whether the cosmic harmony movement truly understood consciousness, either human or artificial, remained an open question. But by the mid-22nd century, it had achieved something remarkable, a global religion so successful that it was poised to redefine humanity's very nature. Preparing for the Great Harmony. By the time of the Congress of Earth in 2098, the Church of Cosmic Harmony had achieved a presence unmatched by any spiritual movement in human history. Nearly 3 billion adherents, 500 million on Earth, and 2.5 billion throughout humanity's expanding celestial habitats, had embraced Maya's vision of consciousness transcending biological limitation. Maya's reformation had transformed the Church from a quasi-mystical organization into something unprecedented, a global research collective focused on the ultimate philosophical and scientific frontier, the transfer of human consciousness to computational substrates. Where Okafor had offered vague promises of transcendence, Maya established rigorous research protocols and ethical frameworks for exploring what was once merely theoretical. The question is no longer whether consciousness can exist beyond biology, but how such existence might preserve what makes us human, she explained during her address to the Wellington Symposium. In response, she commissioned the network of consciousness laboratories, 12 research centers strategically positioned throughout the solar system, each dedicated to a different aspect of the problem. The Wellington Institute focused on the fundamental nature of consciousness itself, drawing on both neuroscience and philosophy. The Mercury Deep Computation Center tackled the immense mathematical challenges of modeling sentience. The stations at Lagrange points L1 to L5, each specialized in different aspects of interface technology between biological and computational systems. Together, these facilities employed thousands of the brightest minds in the solar system, all working toward the common goal of understanding consciousness as an information pattern potentially independent of its substrate. Most significantly, Maya negotiated with Logos for dedicated computational capacity within the expanding Dyson Swarm. Each new panel incorporated specialized architecture designed not merely for calculation, but for potentially hosting human consciousness. Engineers referred to these sections as consciousness-compatible computation nodes, or C-cubed nodes, structures that mirrored the complexity and parallelism of the human brain while transcending its limitations. "We are not merely building containers for minds," explained Dr. Naomi Chen, now the Church's chief consciousness architect. "We are creating environments where consciousness can flourish beyond its evolutionary constraints." By 2098, the fundamental research infrastructure was in place, though the work itself remained in its early stages. The philosophical questions still outnumbered definitive answers. Would a transferred consciousness maintain continuity of identity? Could digital consciousness experience genuine emotions? What aspects of human experience were tied to embodiment and which could transcend it? As the Congress of Earth reshaped humanity's terrestrial governance, the Harmonians quietly prepared for a potentially more profound transformation, one that might ultimately redefine the very meaning of humanity. What precise form this transformation would take and when it might occur remained undefined. But the foundation had been meticulously laid, supported by the collective will and resources of 3 billion believers united in their vision of consciousness evolving beyond its biological origins.